Think about this for a second. If you take out the 2 year time skip, Luffy has only been sailing the seas for about 6 months. Just 6 months. That means a teenager in a straw hat basically dismantled a global power structure in less than a single year. Now, a lot of people look at this timeline and call it a major plot hole. They argue it makes legendary emperors like Kaido and Big Mom, who have ruled the seas for 40 years, look totally incompetent. But what if we are looking at it all wrong? What if this breakneck pace isn't a writing flaw at all? What if moving this fast is the exact reason Luffy actually won? Look at how the world of One Piece is set up. It's huge, islands are totally isolated, and the news travels incredibly slow. Imagine if Luffy had taken his sweet time, if he spent 6 months on one island and a year on the next, he would have given the world government way too much time to react. The Marines would have looked at his track record, realized he wasn't a fluke, and sent an entire fleet of admirals to crush him before he ever even smelled the New World. Instead, Luffy ends up using the ultimate military strategy: absolute and overwhelming momentum. Because he is moving at a supersonic speed, he catches everyone completely off guard. To the higher ups, each of his massive victories just looks like a total fluke. They look at him and think, he's just a lucky, reckless rookie. So they don't fortify their islands. And they don't take him seriously. And before they can even process what just happened, Luffy is already on the next island kicking butts. But this breakneck speed brings up a massive secondary problem. Critics often look at how fast he flips these kingdoms and claim that One Piece's world building is as wide as an ocean but shallow as a puddle. They argue that the narrative is lazy because it uses the exact same template wherever he goes. But that critique completely misses the point. Because that exact formula is the launch pad that explains how his 6 month speedrun is even possible. How does a kid with a crew of just 10 people completely flips entire kingdoms upside down in just a couple of days? The secret is Luffy doesn't actually build these rebellions from scratch. Every single place the Straw Hats land is already a powder keg waiting to blow. And the locals have been doing the heavy lifting for years. Oda sets up these breathtaking, incredibly unique worlds, from a desert kingdom to an islands in the clouds to a vibrant land of living toys. But beneath that beautiful surface, there is always an underworld of intense human suffering. And notice how diverse that suffering is. In Alabasta, a manufactured drought is starving the population. In Skypiea, the indigenous Shandians have been violently exiled from their own sacred homeland for centuries. In Dressrosa, people are literally being erased from memory and turned into clockwork toys. On paper, these problems look entirely different, but at the baseline, at the absolute grassroots level, core issue is identical. Raw, agonizing human suffering caused by tyranny. It is the exact same thing we see if we dissect the major crisis in our own real world today. At the bottom of every political mess is just people hurting. And that brings us to the ultimate truth about Luffy. He isn't a political mastermind. He isn't arriving with a manifesto or a grand plan for economic reform. Luffy doesn't show up and do some magical overnight political organizing. He just happens to land exactly when all shit is about to hit the fan. Every single one of these islands already has a leader. Alabasta has Vivi, Skypiea has Viper, Dressrosa has Skyros. These are the people that locals trust. These are the leaders who actually have a vision for how to rebuild their societies. Luffy doesn't try to solve their systematic problems or give them a path to follow. He doesn't tell them how to govern. He looks at a revolution that's already at a boiling point, jumps right into the chaos, provides the one thing that the local leaders lack: absolute terrifying muscle. He beats the absolute garbage out of the main villain, breaks the chain of suffering, and sails away before the dust even settles. So, no, Luffy didn't conquer the Grand Line by outthinking the old guard or magically fixing the society. He speedrun the entire ocean by finding existing fires, tossing the gasoline of pure physical power into them, and moving on to the next island, leaving the local leaders to rebuild the world he just set free.